Hello, good day. How are you today? You good? Okay, I am good, and you also good. So we're going to be going over to today's lesson. And what are we doing today? Today we're going to be learning agricultural science. And in agricultural science, we're going to be learning about weed. We are going to be learning about weed. So what do we mean by weed? We're going to know by today's video the meaning of weed, how weed can be harmful to plants, and the importance of weed also. Remember, anything that has an advantage also has a disadvantage, good and bad. There's no good, okay, and there's no bad. So there's always a good and there's always a bad. Okay, so we're going to know the meaning of weed today. Let's go. What do we mean by weed? Weed refers to unwanted plants that grow in the fields or gardens. Weed refers to unwanted plants that grow in the fields or gardens. Weeds can compete with crops for nutrients, water and sunlight, which can be harmful to the growth of a desired plant. Controlling weed is an important aspect of farming to ensure healthy and productive crop. Farmers use various methods such as manual weeding, herbicides to manage and control weeds in their farm. We said weeds refers to unwanted plants that grow in fields or gardens. They are wanted, meaning they are not wanted, right? Weeds are not necessary, they are not needed in the field or garden because they compete with other crops. They compete with the crops you have planted for nutrient, water and sunlight, and it can be harmful to those crops you planted. Weeds are very harmful to crops. That's why we say they are unwanted plants, they are not needed because it cause harm to the crops. Okay, we said weeds refers to unwanted plants that grow in the field. They are not needed, they are not necessary in the field where we plant. Okay, so we're going to be knowing how weeds affect our plants, how they harm our plants. Okay, weeds can harm our plants in several ways, which is important to understand in agricultural science. We have competition for resources. Weeds can compete with the desired plants, which is the crops, for essential resources like water, nutrients, sunlight. The competition can lead to stunted growth and reduced crop yields. Okay, like we said previously, they compete for nutrients, water and sunlight with your crops which you have planted. They are unnecessary, and as they are competing with the water, the nutrients in the soil and the sunlight, they cause stunted growth to your crops. They will not bear properly. Okay, so they compete for resources. Did we get that? Okay, blocking sunlight. Weeds can block sunlight from reaching the crop plants, which is necessary for photosynthesis. Reducing sunlight can result in weaker and less productive crops. When the weed grows more than the plant, it blocks the sunlight, so the crop will not receive sun. And you know, sun is very necessary for a plant. So if the weed grow more than the plant, it blocks the sunlight from reaching the plant. Okay, and it becomes weaker. The crop plant which you have planted, it becomes weaker and it will be less productive, or it will not even produce at all. So weed is very harmful to our farm to our crops that we planted. Nutrient competition, weeds can absorb nutrients from the soil that the crops need to grow. Okay, this leads to nutrient deficiency in crop plants, affecting their health and development. When a plant does not have enough nutrients, it becomes less healthy, it does not develop. Just like when we fall sick, we don't feel good and we can't do anything. That is how plants are. When they don't receive nutrients, they fall sick and they are not healthy. They will not be able to develop, they will not be able to bear fruits. Even if they bear, it will not be as much as what they normally bear, or as sweet as what they normally bear, because they lack the nutrient for it. Okay, so we can see how weed is harmful to our plants, right? Disease and pest hosting, some weeds can host pests and diseases that can spread to nearby crops plants, increasing the risk of crop damage. Some weeds serve as house to some pests and diseases, and once they serve as house to pests and diseases, it can spread to your crops, your plants, and it will increase the damage risk of the crop. The pests or will start eating your plants, causing hole on your leaves. You get that? So when weeds are around our plants, it causes diseases. More, if a weed is hosting a pest, which is housing a pest, the pest can go over to the crop plant and start eating it. So it causes damage. Okay, it causes damage to our plants. Interference with farming operation, which can make it challenging for farmers to operate essential tasks like planting, harvesting, and irrigation. They can also clog farm machineries. It interferes with farm operation. So now we say that everything that has an advantage also has a disadvantage. We have talked about the disadvantage of weeds, how it can be harmful to our plants, but there are also some importance of weeds. There are also some importance. Everything has a disadvantage and everything has an advantage. So we're going to be looking at some importance, some of the advantages of weeds. We have soil erosion prevention. Weeds can help prevent soil erosion by covering the ground with their roots, reducing the impact of rain and wind on the soil. So weed can prevent soil erosion. In as much as it causes harm to plants, it can also prevent soil erosion. Habitats for wildlife. Weeds can serve as habitats and food source for various insects and small animals, supporting biodiversity in ecosystem. So weeds serves as food for some animals also, serves as an habitat for them. In as much as it causes harm to the plant, it also serves as food, a source of food for some insects, for some animals. Indicator species. Some weeds can indicate the condition of the soil. For example, certain weeds may grow in areas with nutrient-rich soil or soil that needs improvement, helping farmers understand soil health. So it helps farmers understand soil health, sorry. Knowing if a crop can grow here and if a crop will do better in this area of the field. So we help farmers to understand the health of a soil, knowing where it's best to plant. Medicinal and culinary uses. Some weeds have medicinal and culinary value. For example, Dantoline leaves can be eaten as salad greens, and some weeds have traditional medical use. Some weeds can be used for traditional uses. They can use it for medicine. They can be used as medicine to cure some diseases. In as much as it hurts plants, it also has its advantage and disadvantage, which we just saw. Okay, we have weed controlling method. How can we control weeds? How are we going to be controlling the weeds when they come up in our farm, in our field? Hand pulling. This involves physical pulling out weeds from the ground by your hand or using small tools. It is important to remove the entire weed, including the roots. Using your hand to pull off the weeds or using small tools like hoe, cutlass to pull off them. And when you are pulling it off, make sure you remove both the roots because it will be much better. Hoeing, using a garden hoe to cut weeds like I mentioned, you just below the soil surface, can be effective way to control them. This disrupts their growth. So using hoe, that is clearing of the weed. You can use that method to control weed, okay? We got that right. Hand pulling, using your hand to push using small tools. Hoeing, using hoe to clear them off. Herbicides, these are chemicals that can be used to kill weeds. However, they should be used carefully and is often best for adults or professionals to apply them. Okay? There are chemicals that they use in killing weeds, but when you are using it, you have to be careful. If you have a plant close to the weeds, you have to be careful so that the herbicides will not touch the plant because it will kill your plant. And it's better if you have finished harvesting before you use the herbicide so that it will clear the weeds off. And when using it, you should make sure that it's a professional that is applying it for you, or you know best, an adult that is applying it. Okay? Herbicides are chemicals, so if you are using it to kill weeds, you should also be careful because it can also be harmful to your land, but it can kill weed, right? Yes. We have cover crops. Planting other crops known as cover crops in other rows of maintaining crops can help reduce weed growth by shading the soil. Okay, that can help in reducing weed. It can help in controlling weed. Crop rotation, changing the type of crop grown in a field each season can confuse weed and make it hard for them to establish. If you plant a corn to this period, next period you plant another crop. If you plant yam this season, next season you plant potato, you are confusing the weed on how it will grow. So it's a method of controlling weeds, okay? Changing the type of crop that grows in the field. It helps in controlling weed. Did we get that? Weed barrier fabric. Lay down a special fabric or plastic sheet on the soil to prevent weed from growing through. When you finish planting, you lay down a special fabric or plastic sheet on the soil so that weeds will not be able to sprout out. So I hope we understood today's lesson on weed, right? We did know the meaning of weed. Now know the meaning of weed, how weed affects our plants, how they can be harmful, and also their importance, right? We know them now, and how we can control weeds. So I'm sure we'll be able to do our assignment, right? Yes, we are going to be able to do our assignment because it's easy, right? What are weeds? How do we control them? Good.